Continuing in the Tur, in Siman Tav Kuf Tes Zayin, Mutar Lishloach Yom Tov Dורון Bein Manos Shel Tavshil Haroy Laachil or Bahema Chaya ועוף Bein Chayim Bein Schutim יינות Shmanim וסלתות וקטניות. You can send a gift on Yom Tov, whether it's types of cooked food that is fit to be eaten right now, whether it's a domesticated animal, wild animal, or bird, whether they're still alive or slaughtered already, shechted already, wine, oil, salato. It sounds like salad, but it's solet, which is fine flour. Vatinios, I think we all know what kitnios are. Mm-hmm. How to define it in English is a different problem, but V'rif matir af betvua, and the Rif said you're even allowed to do it with grain. The problem with grain is all of these other things, I could eat them if I wanted to, or I could cook them, right? But there is a gezeres chamim that anything that is normally done before you bring it into the house, like grinding the grain into flour, you're not allowed to do on Yom Tov. So in general, if I have a bushel of wheat, there's nothing I can do with it on Yom Tov, right? I have to grind it into flour first, which I'm not allowed to do on Yom Tov. והרמב zal Oser. And
rephrase in the sense that even though it says tzorch ochel nefesh shalachol, that it's only from a certain part of melachot that is permissible. Not,
no, I understand. No, but the Gemara seems to understand that min haTorah, I could go out and harvest my field and so on and so forth. And they said if we allow you to do this, then there will be no difference between Yom Tov and a regular weekday. So anything that you do outside the house, you're not allowed to do on Yom Tov. Only those things you normally do inside the house. Right. The Harmab zal Oser, and the Harmab says no, you can't send the unprocessed grain. Veleze hiskim aviyadini harosh zal, and to this my lord, my father the Rosh agreed. וכששולח lo ya'ase shura לשלוח בגimel bnei adam ביחד משום דאוושא מלתא. And when you do it, you can't send 3 shaluchim all carrying a load of stuff because it looks like you're
doing business.
You're doing business here. V'gimel minim v'gimel gavre miboy v'lo ifshta. But what if I'm sending 3 things with 3 different people? This one's carrying some wine, this one's carrying some food, this one's carrying some ducks, right? So the Gemara asks that question, it doesn't give an answer. Harmab zal Matir, lachim kelim bein tefurim bein she'enam tefurim, and the Rambam allows you to send kelim, which means here by clothing, whether they're sewn, whether they're not. Shimhem ruyim liishan aleihem, if they're fit to sit upon, meaning it can either be a completed garment, right, that the person could wear, or if it's an incompleted garment, if he could use it as a pad, a cushion, right? That's fine also. Ve'afilu im behem kalayim, even if they got kalayim, im hem kashim shiruyim lahatzia tachtav, even if it's kalayim, if you could sit on it, ubuvad shelo yeh basaro nogei behem, as long as your flesh doesn't cut it. You're allowed to sit on kalayim as long as you don't physically touch it and enjoy the contact with it. Ve'afilu tefillin, even tefillin you're allowed to set. Mishalchim, afal pi shenim ruyim b'moed. Even though they're not fit to use on Yom Tov itself, ruyim b'chol, they're fit to use, I think he means here b'chol hamoed. The kol davar shiroi b'chol, and anything that you could use on chol hamoed, mishalchin also b'Yom Tov, you can send it to him on Yom Tov, right? Because he will have a use for it at some time in Yom Tov, or he could have a use for it at some time in Yom Tov, therefore he will have some simcha. By the way, it seems from the Tur here
that he wore
tefillin on chol hamoed, right? And there is a massive diyun concerning the halachas of tefillin on chol hamoed, And many Ashkenazi communities in Chutz La'aretz are starting to adopt the minhag of the Hasidim and Eretz Yisrael of not wearing tefillin in Chol Hamoed. I think it's because people come to Eretz Yisrael and learn. They didn't put on their tefillin in the Chol Hamoed when they're here, and they said, it's easier not to have to worry about my tefillin in the Chol Hamoed.
Well, it's not going full time.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's a pain in the neck. So why bother with it? I don't have to do it. But if you look,
they take it before Hallel.
Before Hallel on Sukkot, after Hallel on Chol Hamoed Pesach, with the exception of the first day of Chol Hamoed when Yekis take it off after Kriyas Torah, because the Kriyas Torah on the first day of Chol Hamoed Pesach is the first two parshios in the Tefillin. Anyway, but if you go through the various poskim, and maybe when we get to Hilchos Chol Hamoed in the Tur, we'll look at this a little bit. Those poskim that feel, and this is a machlokas in the Gemara that's not completely clear, that the prohibition of malacha on Chol Hamoed is min haTorah. They say that the os of Yom Tov on Chol Hamoed is strong enough that it puts aside the os of tefillin, and those people that feel it's the Rabbanan don't. There is a consequence to this. If you feel that the prohibition of Chol Hamoed, the prohibition of malacha is so strong in Chol Hamoed that you don't need tefillin, it also means it's strong enough that you have to take all your vacation days from work to not work on Chol Hamoed. And it seems to me a huge percentage of American Jewry, I can't speak, they do not take off all of Chol Hamoed from work. So there seems to be a self-contradiction there. All right, on to the next סימן, Tav Kuf Yud Zayin. Mutar lomar lechen v'ni Yisrael tenli beitzim or agozim.
Wait a minute. It might be the way they reconcile that.
Yeah.
Is they go to work and don't do any.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they might do that the whole year round, though. That's there's an all for the boss when she's writing about her father, and she talks about Sukkot. He refused to do any business with Chol Hamoed, but Chol Hamoed Sukkot he'd have his store open because he had an area behind it where he built a sukkah, so that people in the area could come and have their lunch in his sukkah, because there's no other in the business district where his store was. Didn't do it. He wouldn't do business. Someone come in, no business day. It's just, we're open for the sukkah. It's interesting. Our Dron, who is known as the Maggid of Yerushalayim, very long speeches. When he gave his hesped for Yosef Yaakov Herman, he said he was going to speak very briefly. And he said there was a huge tumult when he was arriving in Yerushalayim, and he asked people what it was. And they said, the Chaim of America is coming. And he stopped. That's all I have to say. Anyway, so you can say to a Jewish storekeeper, give me eggs or walnuts or luroi raguletzlo, 10 li gedi or tlei litboach. Or you can go to a shepherd that you normally get animals from, give me a goat or a sheep so I can slaughter it. 10 li katef or yerech, give me a shoulder, a leg. V'lanachtom 10 li kikar, to a baker, give me a loaf of bread. V'lachen v'ni 10 li hamisha beitzim, asar rimonim, give me 5 eggs and 10 pomegranates. V'kol kiyotzi b'zeh, anything like this. Obavad shelo yaskir lo shem mida, as long as you don't have a measure, this many kilograms, for instance. Lomer lo 10 li kav or kabaim, give me 1 kav or 2. V'lo schum damim, and you don't mention how much you're going to pay him for it. Lo mer at all, that I'm going to take this. I was in a yeshuv. I've seen this actually in several yeshuvim, where Erev Shabbos and Erev Yom Tov, the makolet doesn't actually close. The owner of the makolet isn't there, but he leaves a notebook at the cash register. You can come in and take whatever you need, and you write down your name and what you took, and you settle up afterwards. And you can't say, V'kach ashalem lecha, this is what I'll pay you, dinar, I'll pay you a dinar. V'lo schum minyan, and not the exact number, lo kach v'kach, not this and that. Yesh biyadi, 10 li kach v'kach, could be this much for it, that much, this, I'll pay you this much for that much. V'yeh lecha biyadi kach v'kach, I'll take this much from you. V'hani mili, chen v'ni Yisrael. And this is all talking about a Jewish storekeeper. Aval chen v'ni akum, but a non-Jewish storekeeper. Oser likach mimenu davar shebeminyan shebemino mechubar. Anything that can be or could have been attached to the ground today, you can't get from him. Shemen nilkat hayom, because maybe he harvested it today, or he had someone right? The store goes through a lot of stuff, right? They want to sell fresh fruit and vegetables, right? How much do they harvest every day? What they think they're going to sell today. They didn't have, refrigerated cases. V'lo davar shemechusar tzeda, and that's something that's lacking in catching. Shema nitzodu hayom, maybe it was caught today. V'lo beitzim, shema noldu hayom, not eggs, because maybe they were laid today. By the way, most of these things are not shaykh to a normal store today, right?
Really?
It depends. If you go to a farmer's market,
It might be.
if you go to the farmer's market in LA, certainly possible. He could have harvested this morning before he came in. Farmers always get up early. Never heard of a farmer, by the way, that's not up before dawn. Right? It's, can't do that. Not a job for you. Avol davar she'eno b'mino mechubar.
When I was much younger, they said that saved certain Jews in Eastern Europe, because what happens is the father would make the kid get up very, very early in the morning to help out, and so therefore they were used to the hard labor and the crazy hours. So the labor camps, helped them out.
Yep. But something that's not attached, afilu huva hayom mechutz l'tchum. Sorry, even if it was brought today from outside the tchum, it's mutter. The reason here is because most of his customers, certainly on Yom Tov, are not Jews. He's not doing it for a Jew. He's doing it for the non-Jews. I don't care about that. V'ken kemach shenit chanayom. So too, if he ground flour today, sorry, be'ir sherubo akam. And as long as the majority of the city is non-Jews, right? You go into a Drew's village, right, where it's safe to walk in without carrying firepower. No problem. Because he ground it for the non-Jews. Umishum, right, or chutzlaretz, unless you're in New Square. Umishum muktzah leika, there's no muktzah. Dechiti nami chazu lekus bein hashmashos. You can do something with wheat bein hashmashos. V'losos mem klayos. You can v'daisa. You can make cereal with them, right? Oatmeal out of them, or wheat meal, I suppose here. Or you can roast them. People eat roast grains all the time. Kasav adani havi harosh zal b'tshuva lo itiru liknos b'yom tov ela kaderech shemafarish b'gemora. The only way you're allowed to buy in Yom Tov is exactly the way it says in the Gemara. Holech adam etzel chenveni. The person goes to the chenveni that he normally does business with, right? Aval Yisrael she'omer la'akum me'erev Yom Tov shetikne lo yonim lemachar. If he says to the store owner, "I'm going to buy from you doves tomorrow," lo yafe ose. This is not good. Avalim asa kavar. If he already made the deal, mutar le'achol mehem, then you can eat it. I mean, he shouldn't have done it, right? I was dodging around what Freddie was asking me last week on this because it's coming up this week. He's not here this week. Afilu bo b'yom, even on that day. Ubavad shelo yeh mafrichin Lo ye asurim mishum muktzah. As long as they weren't flying and as long as they weren't tied because of the issues of muktzah with these. Avalim ragil bekach, but if he normally does this, Oser l'chol mehem, you can't do it. Meaning a Yisrael that regularly makes his order with his non-Jewish grocer to bring him the food he wants in Yantif, no. If he made the mistake once, it's fine. He says, I'm allowed to do this, I'll do it every time. No, second time you're not. Afilu kana kavar de'en ze chashuv diavad, even if he bought it, it's not considered b'diavad. Kevan shiragil b'kach, because this is what he normally does. Mutter lomar lechavero, he can say to his friend, malay li klize, fill this kli up for me.
Can I ask for variance on this?
Yeah.
I go into a goy, I go say, great, I want to buy this for Chag.
Yeah.
I pay for it, and the guy comes back and says, I'm short, I don't have enough. I've already paid for it, my kavanah was to have it right now.
I don't think that would be a problem. Because,
my intent wasn't to have it tomorrow, my intent was to have it now.
Right. That there was no kavanah to do that.
Yeah.
If you knew he was short,
that'd be a different story.
and you said, I want it now, that wouldn't work because now you're playing a game. Mutar lomar lechav. There, by the way, there are certain things where we say you're allowed to be marim, you're allowed to use gael to say I'm going to do this when you can't, and so on. However, in general, we limit those cases to the cases mentioned explicitly in the Gemara, right? Like the Rosh said here, when you're allowed to do this, when you're not allowed to do this, these dealings with the non-Jewish storekeeper are not at all clear to me. Right? They're not clear. Mm-hmm. So the cases that were explicitly said in the Gemara, that's mutar. Everything else is Oser. You can't make any inferences from what's said in the Gemara. Mutar lomar lechavero malay li klize, fill up this kli for me. Afilu hu miyuchad lamida, even if it's normally used for measuring. Meaning, if I give him a pitcher, we don't normally use a pitcher for measuring, right? So I say, fill it up. Can you fill this up with me with whatever it is I need, right? Popcorn, right? But if I give him a cup measure, I'm not allowed to measure on Yantif, right? But I give him the cup measure. Can you fill this with me with flour? He says it's still mutar, because I haven't told him to measure out the flour. I said, fill this up for me, which is in general mutar thing. As long as I don't remember, fill up this cup measure for me with flour. That, no. Lomar tenli mida polonis. Give me a cup or a gallon or whatever it is. Verambam zal oser bekli hamiyuchad lamida. And the Rambam says, if you're giving him a kli that's normally used for measuring, the answer is no. V'lo nehira la'avi adani harosh. And this does not appear correct to my Lord, my Father, the Rosh. There also might be a case where the Rambam would agree. If you think about the liquid measuring cups that go above that point, right? And you say, fill this up for me. He's not going to fill it to the 1 cup or 2 cup point in it. He's going to fill it to the top, right? Mm-hmm. Therefore, I'm not, even though it's a kli that's miyuchad lamida, I'm not getting a mida back. Whereas the dry measures where you like you use the back of a knife to level it off, that he's going to give you 1 cup. The answer is no, according to the Rambam. Lo yimdod adam sa'orim v'ten lifnei behemto. A person can't measure the barley that he's going to put before his animal. Avokoder hu kav or kabayim, but he can dip a kav or a 2 cup measure into it. 2 cup measure. Kav is a lot more than a cup. V'nosen lefanaha, and put it in front of them. Meaning he just goes like this. He does the approximate amount. He's not going to be exacting. Uperush Rashi, koder no kev nekev bikeri atzmo. He pushes, Rashi explains the Gemara, he pushes the cup into the pile of grain. Umale shelo kederech mida. And he fills it up in the way that he's not measuring it. Rif pirosh kader sha'ar lefi omedato. And the Rif says, I'm not using the measure at all. I'm just grabbing approximately this amount. For instance, I take a bucket, right? And I just fill the bucket with a certain amount. This is usable in the vast majority of cases for the way we feed farm animals, with the exception of sometimes veterinarians now will prescribe very exact amounts of certain types of feed. And I've been asked the shaila, what to do with it. And the answer is measured out from Erev Yontif. There's no such thing, by the way, as a farm that doesn't have extra room to put measured out things of feed before Yontif. Farms, there's room on, it's not like...
You always can find a place to place something.
Can always find a place to put something. That's one of the things that is certainly true about the farm. The next siman is a little bit longer, so we're going to stop here.